right, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time you're watching this. So we're going to begin today we're still in the first unit. It's going to be pretty much section 3. So we've talked this far about real numbers, and we've talked about some simplifying equations and expressions. Now we're going to begin solving those equations, okay? Now, the first thing we're going to begin with is the process of doing that, okay? And like I've said before, I'm going to give you this, but this is the big piece we're looking at right now. So, this is going to be the steps to solve every single one of these, okay? So, we're going to start off with number 1. We're going to distribute. Okay, first thing you're going to do is you're going to see a equation that needs to be solved, and you're going to distribute whatever needs to be distributed. Now, if there's no distribution that has to be done, then you're going to go to number 2. Number 2 is simplify each side by combining like terms. And that's why we did simplifying expressions, so that you could see the process of combining those like terms. We also previously have looked at distributing. Now we're doing it all in one, basically. So we're going to combine like terms. Then these are the two last pieces. We're going to move our variables to one side. So we're going to isolate the variable. So we want the variable on one side, and we want just integers on the other side. Okay? Then we're just going to solve by using the inverse operations. This is why we talked about the inverse operation or the inverse property, so that we would know how to do this step once we got there. So we're basically taking everything we've done up till now and kind of combining it all into one. So let me get rid of this. We're going to just go ahead and jump into some examples, and a lot of this is going to be repetition. So we're going to do a lot of different problems, and we're also going to do you're going to have homework, and we're going to do some on the Google Meet and stuff like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. Number 1, we have 6 times n plus 5 equals 2. Okay, first thing we've got to do, basic steps to follow, is distribute. Do we distribute here? Your answer should have been yes. So we're going to distribute. We're going to distribute 6 to the n and 6 to the 5. And we're going to multiply it by each. So we're going to do 6 times n, which is just 6n. We're going to multiply 6 times 5, and that's a plus sign there, so it's going to be a positive number. That's going to be 30. And we're just going to bring down equals 2. So we've done our first step. Our second step is to simplify each side by combining like terms. Now, this is how I like to split up my sides. I like to draw a little line on either the left or the right of the equal sign, so that I know what it means when it says simplify each side. This is what it means. We have a left side, which is 6n plus 30. Then we have a right side, which is 2. Okay? So we're going to take a look at our left side. We have 6n. Do we have another term on that side that also has an n in it? No, we do not. So that means there's nothing to combine with there's no like terms for my 6n. Now, we have 30 on the left side. We're still looking at the left. We have a 30 on that side, but you can't combine 30 with 6n because they don't have the same variable. You can combine 30 with a 2, but they're not on the same side. So we can't combine those right now. So that step is over with. That's each side's as simplified as it can be, because the right side's just 2. You can't simplify 2 any more than 2. Okay. Now it says to move variables to one side. So here's what I like doing. Different cases can depend on what you need to work with first. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my 6n on the left side. I'm going to move this 30. I'm going to move this plus 30. Okay. Now, if you remember, this is where the inverse operations can come in, because we need to move this now. And the way we move this is This is plus 30. We need this to be gone. We need this to be 0. So the only way we can do that is by subtracting 30. Now, what we do, this is why I also draw this line, because what we do to the left side or to one side, we must do to the other side. Now, that's going to cross out. So then what comes down is this will come down. So we're going to have 6n here. This is gone. So that's now 0. So we're just going to have equals 2 minus 30 is going to be negative 28, I believe. Yes. Now, we have to do this step as well again, because we need this to just be n. What we're looking for is we're looking for n. We need n to be by itself. The only way to get rid of this 6 from the n, because this is really the same thing as saying 6 times n, okay? But we just combined it together because that's how you handle variables. Now, we're going to do the inverse operation of what's happening. So if we have a 6n, we need to divide by 6 because that's the opposite of multiplying, which is, in other words, the inverse. Or you could look at it as this. We have a 6n. To get rid of that, we need to multiply it by 1 over 6. This and this are the same exact thing. It just depends on how you want to write them. I'm lazy, so I like writing just dividing by 6. Now, we're going to divide. We're going to keep our line here. Draw your line here again. What we do to one side, we must do to the other side. So now, this will end up giving us our final answer. So, I'm going to bring it over here just so we have some room. So, this is going to go away now. Because 6 divided by 6 is just 1. So that just leaves us with n equals negative 28 over 6. Now, the last step is to just simplify this answer. So this is going to actually be n equals, what's that simplified down to? Negative 14 over 3, I think. Yeah. So that will be our answer. Okay. Now, pause the video, write this down because I'm about to erase it. All right. So let's get rid of all that. And now let's look at another example. This video may be a tad bit longer because we have several different examples that we're going to need to work through. But I'm only going to do these 2 right now to try to keep it as short as I can. So we're going to do number 2. Now, here's what we need to do. Follow our steps. So we've got our steps over here. Got our steps here. Just follow the steps. First thing it says to do is distribute. Do I have anywhere to distribute? Yes, I can distribute this right here. So I'm going to take 3, multiply it by 5, and I'm going to take 3 and multiply it by negative 3x. So that's going to give us 15. Now we have a minus sign right there. So make sure that you pay attention to your signs. That's going to be 3 times a negative 3x, which is going to be a minus 9x. This piece stays. We didn't do anything with it, so it can't go anywhere. It stays there. Equals negative 15. Same for that. Now, we need to simplify each side and combine like terms. Well, this division here, we can't combine any of that right now. So I'm going to draw my line and look on the left and right side just to be sure. We can't do anything with the top or the bottom, and we also can't do anything on the right side. So now we're going to move to moving the variables. Now, I like to isolate my variables, so I'm going to keep negative 9x where it is. And I'm going to deal with, anytime you see division, we have to get rid of the division. We can't have division. So we've got to get rid of this negative 4. That's the only thing we can move right now. So the way we do that is, if this is divided by a negative 4, we now have to multiply by a negative 4 in order to get rid of it. That takes that away. Now, since we did that to the left side, we must now do it to the right side as well. So So we're going to have to divide 15 by negative 4. And now that's going to leave us with this top piece and this, which we can simplify that out as we write it. So I'm going to move to the left now. So we've got 15 minus 9x equals negative 15 divided by 4. I don't know if that can simplify. Actually, I just made a common mistake. So, and this is a mistake that you could make, so I'm glad I made it. Now, this was negative 15. I said we were multiplying here, and I just divided. So make sure that you pay attention to what you do to one side, you do to the other. So that's what I did wrong. Now, that's going to be 60 now, I believe. Yeah. Okay, so it's going to be 60. But now we're going to take our variable and keep it where it is. I'm going to keep this variable where it is because that's how I like doing them. And we're going to move, we've got to get this 15 away from the left side. So draw your line here. What's the opposite of adding 15? Because that's a positive 15. It's subtracting 15. So now that's gotten rid of. But what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So now I'm going to move this over here. So that's going to leave us with negative 9x equals 45. Now, the last part of this is going to be like before. We draw our line. We have a negative 9 with our x, with our variable. We have to get rid of that negative 9. It's multiplied by that x. So now we have to do the opposite of that, and that's dividing by a negative 9. That's how we get rid of it. What we do to one side, we do to the other side, and then this will give us our answer. So 45 divided by 9, so we're going to end up, I'm going to have to write it down here so I have room. So x is going to equal negative 5. And that would be how you do that. Let me pause the video, write this down, because I'm about to erase it. Okay, so gone. Now, I'm going to let you all work these other examples, and we're going to go to some special cases here, because all of them you do pretty much the same way. There's no throwing tricks at you, really. So now these special cases are going to be two separate ones. So you'll see, I'm not going to work this completely out. I'm going to let you do it. But when you're working this, you're going to come to a point where you're going to come to a point where this happens. You're going to have 1 plus 3c equals 5 plus 3c. Whoa. Now, I need to move either this c, that is not what I wanted. There we go. I need to move either this c or this c. Now, either way, the same thing's going to happen, so watch. I'm going to subtract by 3 because I know this is adding, so I have to subtract by 3. It's going to cross out. Now, when I subtract it here, it's also going to cross out. So that's going to just leave me with 1 equals 5. Now, the universe I live in, 1 does not equal 5. So that means that this is incorrect. So when that happens, when you have something that's not equal to something else, the answer is no solution. Okay? These are special cases. So anytime you have a situation happen like this, where something does not equal something, no solution. So I would pause the video, write that down, because I'm about to erase it. All right, now we're going to look at another one. You're only going to have really 2 of these cases. It's either going to be no solution or what's about to happen here. Now, this problem would bring you to, I'm not going to work it out, I'm going to let you work it out. But you're going to come to a point where you're going to have 40 minus 8x equals negative 8x plus 40. Same thing applies here. We need to move something. We got to move. I like using, if I have variables on each side, I just like moving the variables first. So I would take plus 8x, and I would move that to the right or to the left side. We could draw a line here just to be sure. And now if you'll see, the same thing happens. This is gone on both sides because either way, negative 8 plus 8 is going to be 0. So now we're left with 40 equals 40. Now, the universe I live in, 40 equals 40. 40 is the same thing as 40. So when that happens, your answer is going to be all real numbers. And that's how you'd write it. The little crazy R, or you can just put R, and you're going to say all real numbers. And that would be your answer. So those are the two cases you would have. So I would pause this, make sure you have that written down. Those are the two special cases. Now we're going to talk about last two things, so bear with me. Almost done. Wait a second. That is not what I wanted. Okay. Last two things. We got proportions and just some literal equations. So I'm just going to only do one of these proportions. Now here's how you do proportions. If you have a fraction on one side and a fraction on the other, you can do something called cross multiplying. Okay. Now when you cross multiply, I like starting with my top, multiplying it by the bottom. So that's going to be 5x plus 4 equal to, then I like taking my bottom and multiplying it by my top. My bottom of my left side, multiplying it by the top of the right side. So then that's just going to give me 3 times 2, which from now on, or from this forward, you'll distribute that. You will multiply that, which I can do it real quick. So 5x plus 5 times 4, so you'll distribute this, 20 equals 6. We're going to move that to that side. So we'd end up with 5x, which I'm doing this very fast, but you can work this out as well for practice. So then that's just going to equal, I believe that's going to be negative 14. I put 40. Let's just erase it because I'm crazy, allegedly. All right. Then we're going to have to divide this. So then that will give us x equals negative 14 over 5. So that's all you'd have to do with proportions. So anytime you have look at 14. We got two fractions here. We just cross multiply those two, then add them together, simplify, work it out. Okay, so now our last piece is the literal equations. And all literal equations really is doing this. So just read the directions, solve each equation for the specified variable. So all we're doing is manipulating equations. So this right here is the formula for circumference, I believe. Yeah, that's the formula for circumference. It wants us to solve for pi, though. So all we're going to do is solve for pi. So we're going to do exactly what we've been doing, except we're going to treat now where before we were isolating a variable, now we want to isolate pi. So we have c equals 2 pi r. So the first thing we're going to have to do is get rid of the 2 and the r. Now, since all of this is multiplied, this step's pretty easy. The opposite of multiplying by a 2 and multiplying by a r is going to be to divide by it. So that'll get rid of that. That'll get rid of that. Now we'll have c divided by 2r equals, because you do what you do to one side, you just simply do to the other side, equals pi. And that is our answer. So it's pretty simple. Whatever it tells you to look for, You want to isolate that by itself, and everything else you just treat like you would treat any normal number. You can treat it like it's 1. You can treat it like it's 2. You just manipulate the equation however it says to. So I'll do one more for you to end it off. Right here we have 1 over 2. Now, to get rid of, first thing we need to do is get rid of 1/2 because we're looking for p. We want this by itself. So we need to get rid of the a and the 1/2. Now, if I want to get rid of 1/2, I have to multiply, since it's a fraction. This is another way you can do these. We're going to multiply by the multiplicative inverse, which the inverse of 1 over 2, we need that to be 1. So the inverse of 1 over 2 is 2 over 1, because now that'll get rid of itself. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So now we're multiplying 2 by a equals little a p. Now, we have to get rid of this. We have to get rid of this a right here. So if we want to do that, this is the same thing as saying a times p. So we have to do the opposite of what's happening here. So we're going to divide by a to get rid of it. And just like I said before, treat a like it were just anything. It doesn't matter what it is. The same rules apply. You can just divide it and by both sides, and it'll cross out the right side, and then it will leave us with our answer on the left side. So let me write it all out. So now this is gone. So we just have 2a over 2 little a equals p. And that is our answer. And you do the same thing for 17 and 18. And then there will be some more applications, some more. We're not going to get into the word problems, but there'll be some homework that's attached. We'll work through some examples. But that's it for this video. See you later.